Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to The View from Here, Behind Enemy Lines. We're honored to have Barry Todd, retired Army captain and an Army Ranger, who's going to tell us a little about what he went through and how the American justice system is not always just. Captain Todd, what do you want to be called? You want to be called Barry, Captain Todd, Captain, or as long as you don't tell me they, them, I don't know.
You don't have to worry about that. You can call me Barry. You can call me Ranger. You can call me Captain, whatever you're comfortable with.
Okay. All right. If your name was Richard, I'd call you Ranger Rick. But
okay, Captain Barry Todd.
Yeah. Well, first off, I want to.
You got in some trouble. Sorry.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You got into some trouble in Arizona. In Arizona, was it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because you defended yourself and your wife after being attacked by two individuals.
Correct.
Who threw you into a wall and injured you.
Correct.
Okay. Now,
yes,
I am very interested in your story because the New Jersey Senate just passed some bills that will make it almost impossible to defend yourself without going to jail. Impossible, not almost. Because if you fire your firearm, if you use it even in self-defense, you're going to jail for a minimum of 2 days. Then they've got 5 days to get a ballistics report, then 7 days for something else. So you wind up in jail for about 2 weeks, whether you're innocent or not. So this is past the Senate. It's going to go to the legislature now. And these idiots here in New Jersey are probably going to pass it.
And we're not Rangers, so that's a long time.
What's that?
We're not Rangers, so that's a long time in jail.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, we're not that young either. But please tell the audience your story. What happened to you?
Well, as you read it and you get into the book, you're going to find out that it is a riveting, true story for anyone. But it's especially, gentlemen, for anyone that has been presumed guilty until proven innocent. In a nutshell, my wife and I were out with some other retired friends for dinner and drinks at a place that was owned by a retired military veteran. And my wife and I were threatened. And then I was viciously attacked, not by one, but two men, and attacked twice, one of them wielding a knife. And I had to brandish my firearm and to defend myself, and they attacked me with it. And then when the police showed up, without any due process or any investigation, within 4 hours, they charged me and indicted me without any due process or any investigation. It was a harrowing experience, and that should not happen to anybody in America.
No, unfortunately.
The one thing that really upset me about your story is how many times you had to face a grand jury, or the grand jury was activated.
Yeah, it's absurd. It's absurd. And all of us have heard the term, you can indict a ham sandwich in a grand jury, but now I understand it. And before that, I was extremely naive on how the grand jury system worked. But now I have a clear understanding on how it works. And it's almost at a conflict of interest, gentlemen, because prosecutors are elected. DAs are elected.
Right.
So if they're elected and they're afraid to let a case go because they have no evidence, they're going to withhold facts from a grand jury. So then the onus is not on them. They let it go to trial, cost the person that's being charged a lot of money, and let the jury decide that they're not guilty.
Yeah, and in your case and in many other cases, they went back 4 times to the grand jury?
4 times it was sent back.
So they are using an unlimited pool of money, taxpayer money, your money, against you, okay? And they do this to citizens all the time. They use taxpayer money to go after the taxpayers because they just don't like the person, or they don't like what the person stands for, something about it. They don't like that you're a constitutionalist.
I think it's more than that. I think it's happened over the past 50, 60 years, ever since the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And we started off passing all these laws that take away a person's rights as they're going through the due process of determining if there's a place to charge somebody. And what I mean by that is an example. I'm going to give you a story from 1966. My brother, who's deceased now, who was also a retired Army Ranger, in 1966, his dad woke him up at 2 o'clock in the morning. This was outside Fort Bragg, North Carolina. He was a sergeant major in the 82nd Airborne Division. And Ralph Beam, that's his name, was 8 years old. Says, come out here on the porch, boy. Comes out there on the porch, and there's a dead man on the porch.
Oof.
And he says, grab that hose over there and wash this blood off my porch. 10, 15 minutes later, a sheriff comes up the road, walks up on the porch and goes, well, what do we have here, Mr. Beam? He goes, ask him. And he pointed to the dead man. And he goes, I can't. He's dead. He goes, exactly. So what I'm going to tell you is the truth of what happened. Don't try to invent a crime that doesn't exist. This man was breaking into my house. I have 7 children in this house, and I put 2 bullets in his chest. Any questions? And it went to the grand jury, and he was never charged.
Where was this?
This was in Fayetteville, North Carolina in 1966.
Okay.
So that's the way the system used to be. Now you fast forward, and they passed all these laws. As an example, number one is what they call pretrial services. All right. You know what pretrial services are? All right. It's being on probation. I've never had a felony charge in my life until that night.
Right.
Or until that weekend. Not only did they ask me for a $500,000 cash only bond, yet I owned a business in Yuma that was a national business headquartered in Yuma. My wife ran a real estate business. We own property all over the United States. I can understand, okay, surrender my passport while we do the investigation. But
right.
Pretrial services, gentlemen, is disgusting. All right. You have to report to a probation officer. They took away my guns. I wasn't allowed to drink for over 2 years. I had to go in and report to a probation officer. So a 24-year-old right out of college who wanted to try to psychoanalyze me. And then at least once a month, they would call me unannounced, and I would have to go into a place called Task C, where I would have to do a urinalysis while a 21-year-old watch me through a window, hold my tillywhacker, and pee in a bottle.
Right.
It's absurd. And it's absolutely, and to travel outside of Arizona, I had to get permission from the court. Every time I wanted to travel, I had to file and put what it was for. I missed weddings. I missed birthdays. And finally, I got to go to one birthday, my father's 80th birthday. They didn't want me to go to that.
Jeez.
And these laws were all put in place in the past 30, 40, 50 years by all the different states.
Yeah, what bothers me most about this is that we were the only country in the world where you were innocent until proven guilty. And that has been turned upside down now. You are guilty until proven innocent. You can't do, whereas 60, 70 years ago, you could do anything as long as the government didn't prohibit it. Now you have to ask permission of the government to do anything, including collecting rainwater, doing anything on your property. If there's a little pond on the property, you can't do anything. There's no freedom left anymore because the government keeps chipping away at our freedoms, our individual liberties.
You're correct. And, but I will tell you, even though I'm disgusted with the underlying process, God bless the courts, all right? Because the judge saved my life. He saw through it. He knew the law and he respected the law. And that's why he kept agreeing to send it back to the grand jury, because our listeners don't understand is my entire incident was on video. Mm-hmm. My legal defense team got the videos from the police. They never looked at the videos before they charged me. It's unbelievable. And then when we got the videos, because it came from 16 different cameras that were in and around this establishment, we gave it to one of the FBI's leading video forensics expert, had it put all into a video like a movie.
Right.
We gave it back to the prosecutor, and instead of bringing the witnesses in that said I was the aggressor and showing them the video, they just wanted to ignore that evidence and have it go to trial. And that goes back because they had plastered me all over the news. They didn't want to admit they were wrong because they're elected.
Right.
That's the issue. As long as prosecutors are elected, they're going to go with the will of the people instead of justice. And it's no different than Daniel Penny, gentlemen.
Right.
In New York. He would have never been charged or indicted in a grand jury if Alvin Bragg had taken the witnesses from that subway or the videos that they had taken with their phones and presented that to the grand jury.
I think it's malicious intent when they don't present both sides, because they're trying to just get an indictment, and the grand jury is supposed to decide whether or not there's enough evidence for a trial. But if you present, this is what they're going to be fighting against, the grand jury would, in many cases, not vote for an indictment. I'm sorry, Mike.
In your book, Stand Your Ground.
Yes.
Okay, I'm quite sure that you present all of the data that led up to you being wrongly treated. Now, my question is, I'm presuming this, that at some point you will educate the reader as to things that they might do or not do to diminish the possibility of this happening to them.
What do you mean? The best way to do that is to know the laws within your state and try to work within them.
Okay.
All right, which is exactly what I did. It was so crazy. The laws had changed. Our state, Arizona, became an affirmative or became a justification defense state in 2002 to 2004, where New Jersey is an affirmative defense state. Do you gentlemen know the difference between the two?
I heard you define it, but I've forgotten your definition.
Yeah. Please define it for us in the audience.
All right. Okay. So an affirmative defense state means if you claim self-defense, you, as the defendant, have to prove it was self-defense. New Jersey's that way. California's that way. Illinois is that way. New York, that kind of stuff. But there's 28 states in the past 25 years that have gone to a justification defense. Some people call it stand your ground. But really what justification defense is the moment I said to the police it was self-defense, it was the obligation of the prosecutor to prove that it wasn't. They were supposed to let me go. Right. And then do their investigation and prove that it wasn't. But it was so bad that when you get into reading chapters 6 through 12, it's the actual transcripts from the final preliminary hearing where my case was dismissed. And when my attorney asked the police officer, "Are you aware of these laws that have been passed in Arizona the past 5 to 10 years about justification defense?" And he goes, "Well, I've heard about them." He goes, "And I think I saw a CD around the office that we looked at, but I don't pay attention to that." He said this on the stand. And my attorney goes, "What do you mean you don't pay attention to it?" He goes, "Well, that's not my job. My job's to arrest and let the prosecutors and the attorneys figure it out." And I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy has the authority to carry a gun and a badge and arrest me, but he says on an open forum that it's not his obligation to know the law.
Right, that's ridiculous. I keep wondering what happened to Arizona, because Arizona you would think would be like Texas, but no, it's completely, I don't know, it's more than purple. It's really
it's red. It's red. Out of the 9 congressional districts we have, 6 of them are Republican.
But how come the Democrats have so much power that because they're the ones who are behind the anti-gunners, or is it rhinos that are running the Republican?
Well, it's number one, it's rhinos, but also more importantly, you got to understand there's a lot of bad money in the last 15 years that has gone into electing DAs.
Yes,
A lot of bad money.
Yeah.
And these DAs are getting in there because think about it. If you're an elected official, Roy, and you're an elected DA, and you had a guy like me, because they made it in the papers that I just walked up to this guy with my gun and just shot him in the head. I mean, it was horrible.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They didn't put in there that I had already been attacked twice, had a broken rib, broken arm, and a concussion before the gun ever came out.
Right.
None of that was in there. And they also didn't put in there that I walked away from this guy 3 times before he attacked me. I told him I was too old to get into a fight. I'm not fighting him. And I walked away. And all this was on the video. But an elected official like a DA, Roy, he has to fulfill what his constituents demand. Right? And they demand conviction. So now they believe that this dude that was plastered all over the papers is guilty. So instead of having the moral courage and being a minister of justice and presenting all the evidence to the grand jury, he presents what fits his narrative. So that way a jury of the peers will make the decision and it doesn't fall on him.
And you become an example.
Get reelected.
You become an example. And not only an example, but you become a tool of intimidation for anyone else who dares defend themselves. Mm-hmm. New Jersey's going through the same thing.
Exactly.
They're making it so that I'm going to be afraid to carry, even though I have a permit. I'll be afraid to carry because, God forbid, I have to use it or even brandish it. I'm going to wind up in jail.
Well,
you're exactly
right. Better to be carried by 12 than carried by 6. But the thing is that I have U.S. Law Shield, and I was wondering, did you have any kind of anything like this that you available to you, or
at the time I did not. I do now.
Oh, okay. I know you have U.S. concealed carry. I heard, right?
Yeah, this is okay.
You have U.S. concealed carry.
Yes.
Yeah, they provide legal service. We went with U.S. Law Shield because apparently, from what we've heard, well, first off, it's the only thing available to me here in New Jersey. U.S. concealed carry they wouldn't let me have, and they consider it insurance, murder insurance, as that idiot in Trenton says. They will pay a lot more than U.S. concealed carry does. I just suggested you look into them.
One of the things that that I heard that is a common problem in situations where it's self-defense is that usually the first person who calls it in is considered the victim. And if you call it in too late, you're considered the perpetrator. So are you aware of that? And do you agree with that point of view?
No.
Okay.
Well, what happens?
No, I agree with your analysis, but I think that does happen.
Right. Oh,
that
I
being
think
said,
would actually like that, but that you are aware of that as being something that does happen. Oh,
yes.
I'm sorry.
I am aware of it, but I disagree with their analysis. And the reality is I learned so much through this process, and that's why I wrote the book. And I'm going to say it here. Everybody needs to go to standyourgroundbook.com, get it. All the proceeds go to a foundation I started called defenseresourcesfoundation.org. You can go there and donate individually, but all the proceeds from the book are going there. It hit the bestseller list last week on Amazon. And the reason being is because of the amount of money it cost me. Not only did it take me 2 years, 2 months, and 17 days to clear my name just in the criminal side, it took me another 5.5 years to clear my name on the professional side because I own a national financial advisory firm, I was licensed in multiple states, and everybody presumed you were guilty just because you were charged. This is how stupid the rules are that have been written by the legislatures. Going back to your point, Roy, just because I was charged, even though I was found, the case was dismissed, the Securities and Exchange Commission has a requirement. Anytime you're charged with a felony, you have to put it and disclose it to all your clients. Even though the case was dismissed and I was found to have been wrongfully indicted or otherwise charged, that didn't matter. It took me 5.5 years after it was dismissed to get it sealed and get it off the record.
It would make more sense to put that information out once a person is convicted of a felony. That would make sense. And then if they're overturned on an appeal or something, then you could remove it, hopefully.
It's the same problem with the
put it
newspaper.
down before the trial is ridiculous. Sorry?
But they don't, they retracted on page 94 and they accuse somebody and then, when it's found
front page.
Yeah.
But and the thing is, those same prosecutors you were talking about, the bad money, those people are letting real criminals run rampant because they want chaos. Their bosses, the people who are funding them, want chaos throughout the country so that people will eventually get to the point, they hope, where we'll beg the government, please do something. And they'll say, we'll do it, but you got to give up this, and that, including your right to self-defense, your right to keep and bear arms. The first thing Hitler ever did when he got in office was ban gun ownership.
Yes.
And he made, Michael was telling me yesterday, he made a big deal of it, the way he wrote about it and spoke about it. It was a great thing for Germany that they were getting rid of guns and so on, just like Australia did 25 years ago.
Yep.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, there's more stabbings now than there were shootings.
And now they want to ban in England. They want to ban kitchen knives with points.
Well, and see, that's the great thing about our Constitution is the way it's written, gentlemen. The reason our Constitution is now the oldest governing document in the world, and our younger people don't know that.
No,
it is the oldest governing document in the world. The countries have still been around longer, but the governing document that is over those people, the U.S. Constitution, is the oldest of all of them in the world. All right, and the reason being is because ours is the only one that tells the government what it can't do, not what it can do. Our amendments tell them what they can't do.
Yeah, but
that's why it lasts.
But the swamp in D.C. is working as though we have no rights unless they grant them to us. The Constitution doesn't grant us rights; it recognizes rights.
Well, that's because they think we're a democracy, and they keep using that term. They use it interchangeably with republic. And we stop teaching our children the difference between democracy and republic. Democracy is universal equity. A constitutional republic is individual liberty.
And the founding fathers hated it.
What's that?
The founding fathers hated democracy.
Oh, I know they did.
They despised it.
Yeah, we're a constitutional republic, representative republic. And
pardon me a moment. It's from my doctor. I went for my physical yesterday. I have to answer it.
All right.
Go ahead, Mike.
Right. You get to speak to the most important person here.
Got it.
Of course. But for our listeners, I did listen to some of your stuff, and you had an excellent definition of the word honor, which has been forgotten. And if you could tell people the difference, your definition of honor versus loyalty. I thought that was fantastic.
All right. Well, thank you. Well, first off, it's not my definition. It was the founding fathers' definition.
Okay.
If everybody wants to, kids today coming out of school, they can read the preamble to the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. They can recite it for you, but they don't know any more past that. If you go to the last sentence of the Declaration of Independence, our founding fathers wrote, "We pledge our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor." All right. Under the guise of God, to declare our independence. Now, what does that mean? When I talk to a young person today, they call I'll ask them what the definition of honor is. And I do it with politicians too. Every politician I meet, if they want my support, I ask them define honor for me. And only one of them's ever gotten it right. And that's Mark Lamb, Sheriff Mark Lamb. All right. But all the rest of them give me the definition of integrity, which is doing the right thing when no one's looking. But honor is a much higher level than that. Honor is doing the right thing no matter the cost.
Mm.
All right. That means it might cost you your life. But have you ever thought about the lives of your parents or your kids? Maybe your kids are bad apples and one of them needs to go to jail. Are you going to let them go to jail to learn their lesson, or are you going to continue to pamper them? That's honor, and that's hard.
That reminds me of the Marshal Bass from the 1800s, the Black Marshal, who they based the Lone Ranger on, by the way. Huh. He was so fierce. He one time went and arrested his son on a warrant, his own son.
Yeah. That's the way it should be. And so what frustrated me in the police, and I'm glad you read the book there, Mike, it's a beautiful thing, because what disgusted me was I knew 4 different police officers on the Yuma police force. And my attorney and lead investigator went to them and said, would you be willing to look at the video and consider standing by Barry in this? Every single one of them, and one of them was a pastor, the youth pastor of my church. Every single one of them watched that video, walked out of that room and said, oh, dang, you got a good case, and told my attorney this, you got a great case, but I can't go against my brothers in blue. So they placed loyalty above honor.
Yeah.
And that's something in the military, we don't do that. You place honor above loyalty.
Yeah, otherwise you're going to be like the Nazis in pre-war Germany, where you just follow orders. That's it. And American soldiers are traditionally, if the orders are evil, they don't really want to follow that, and they will, what was the one where the massacre at My Lai being an exception.
Yeah, but so you're exactly right. Whenever, as an officer, retired officer, and I was also enlisted, we were taught, I will follow your orders as long as they're legal, ethical, and morally acceptable.
Yes,
right.
You notice I didn't say socially acceptable, morally acceptable, because there's some things that are socially acceptable that are not morally acceptable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that ultimately it talks about having to be of service to a higher standard than yourself.
Yeah.
So it is like it is sacrifice if necessary. So it's just what sacrifice actually means to make sacred. So yeah, I just thought that that short explanation is most needed in today.
It is. It is.
The words honor and that is such an important word.
It really is. And I raised my kids that way. They saw me. I mean, I remember getting in arguments with general officers as a captain when I commanded units or colonels. And the reality is that if you're wrong, you're wrong, and I'm going to call you out on it.
Mm-hmm.
You can slap me down, but I'm going to call you out on it.
Yep. Just to let you know, I was in the Air Force as well, and
thank you for your service, sir.
You're both your service.
No, but you served. You're part of the less than 1%.
Well, here's the thing. I did it for mercenary reasons. I was going nowhere, and I had to go to some place that wouldn't let me get away with any bullshit. So I put myself in the meat grinder, and because I knew once I joined, I couldn't get out until I was finished. So
because of the household I grew up in, my mother was a retired vet. She was still in the military at the time I went in, and so was my father. And so, and I wasn't. If it hadn't been for woodshop, I probably wouldn't have graduated from high school. But anyway, I was the perfect recruit. I walked into the recruiter's office in Warrenton, Virginia, in 1979, and I looked up on the wall there, and there was a picture of a ranger with a 120-foot rope over his neck, holding an M16 up in the air. I said, "I want to do that right there, Sergeant."
Well, I have a funnier story. Okay, and I'm not out to beat you on the stories, but this shows you how stupid you can be. Okay, so I'm sitting at home. I'm almost 19 years old, and I'm useless. I've held 15 jobs in the past year. I can't hold a job. I'm just sitting at home, wasting my time watching TV. And what happens on the movies is a movie with Rock Hudson, where he's in the Air Force and he's saving orphans. I think it's called Battle Hymn or something like that. Mm-hmm. But anyway, he's there with June Allison and they save the orphans. And I said, that's what I want to do. I want to save orphans. So I joined the Air Force.
That's a good one. I mean, it was one of the best decisions I ever made. I mean, I actually went through Ranger School 3 times before I made it through because I got hurt the first 2 times.
Oh, okay.
That was a painful thing to do. But some people say, holy cow. But the good news is that what I learned from that training, I will tell you, I would not have gotten through this nightmare that I went through with the legal system if I didn't have the mental stamina that I learned from being a United States Army Ranger. And God bless all those men that trained me and motivated me to be better than I ever thought I could be.
Yeah, I now that I'm on the other side of it, it was absolutely necessary for me. I needed some sort of discipline in order to get me through my life. I was going nowhere. And, what?
Go ahead.
That's it.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
But, my military story, so to speak, is not really a military story. What happened was my number was 357 in the draft. Okay, the lottery. Mm-hmm. Now, I was thinking of joining the Marines on my own after high school because I hadn't been accepted to Rutgers, and I only applied to one other college, Seton Hall, and I hadn't heard from them, so I was thinking to go. But then 2 things happened. One, I got accepted by Seton Hall, and I'm like, should I go there or should I go to the Marines? Then I met my future ex-wife. So that made the decision. The Marines did call me up there. I went up to the Federal Building in Newark, and the sergeant asked me, do you have any plans for the military? I said, at this point, no, not right now. And that was it. I left. It was as close as I got.
Well, I'll tell you, it was the best decision I ever made, next to asking Jesus into my life, my family, and my kids, and it was definitely the best, one of the top decisions I ever made.
Okay, now we've talked about your ordeal with the government, and and with the justice system. Tell us a little about yourself. I mean, you've already told us how you got into the military. What about yourself? What did you do in the military? And I mean, I don't want you to brag. If you want to brag. You're entitled to it. But what did you do? And what did you do after you got out of the military?
No, well, thank you for that.
Well, you have business.
I'll give you the lowdown as briefly as possible. I joined the military in 1980, July of 1980. I became a Ranger. I served in Bravo Company's Rangers separate. It was one of the last Ranger companies still on active duty after the battalions. The Ranger battalions were coming back in the 70s, and they were getting rid of the LRP units, or separate Ranger units.
Okay.
And then I went to Europe. I did almost 3 years there. Then I came back, did a year in the 82nd when my mom was terminally ill. Mm-hmm. And then I went to the 10th Mountain. And then I became a Ranger instructor. Then I went to Korea. and served up in the DMZ and their LERP unit or LERS unit, which is a Ranger unit, and then went back to Benning, served in the 24th Mech. And then I went to the 101st, where I commanded two companies there, both an air assault company and their LERS company. And then I retired not too long after that when they wanted to promote me to major and put me behind a desk.
No.
I have, on the family side, in August of this year, I've been married to my wife for 40 years.
Nice.
Together, we have 3 children and 4 grandchildren. I own a national company called Invicta Financial Group. We're a fee-only firm. We have offices from Virginia to Southern California. And I wrote this book so that way I could help other people. I'm also the president of the National Ranger Memorial Foundation. We're responsible for our memorial that sits on Fort Benning, and we take care of the memorial, keep it up to date, as well as to honor Rangers, both past, present, and future, and also provide scholarships for Rangers and their heirs moving forward. So I wrote the book to help other people. So there you go.
I have a question to ask you that is about present events. Since you are experienced, you're a professional soldier, were anyway. Well, once a Ranger, always a Ranger. So anyway, the thing is that, yeah. So the thing is that this action that Trump did in, when he dropped the bombs, I would like your professional opinion on that whole thing, and how you felt when you first found out the news.
So the first thought that came to my mind was, thank God, amen.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. I remember when the Shah was overthrown, and they've been at war with us since 1983 when they killed those Marines over there in the Middle East. All right. I was in the service then. It was disgusting. It was horrible. I played a little bit of a role in the recovery of that back in those days, and the fact that we have had presidents that, including Reagan, that have not had the guts to do what he did, because they've been at war with us. And I know that President Trump is trying to say, no, we're not at war. Well, the reality is we are at war. They've killed over 2,000 Americans over the past 30 years, and we have done nothing to rectify that. And the fact that we did this, I don't believe in regime change, but I would not be surprised and would not be upset if they allowed the Prince of the Shah to go back in there, and we backed him to do that, to get that crazy people out of office.
Yeah, but let the Iranians do it.
Yeah, let the Iranians do it, but back the Iranian people, not the terrorists that are currently running that country. That is the only country.
A few years ago, under Obama,
what's that?
They almost did it when Obama was in office.
Obama never did anything.
No hope whatsoever.
Obama never did anything. Obama talked out of both sides of his mouth.
Yeah.
And that was 8 wasted years. That's all it was. And 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 it's a sad thing. We worry too much. We don't, and that's why, going back to when we were talking about honor earlier, Mike, that's why I don't ask politicians questions about policy. I ask them questions about their character.
Oh.
That's why I ask the question, define honor for me. All right? Because we're going to disagree. But if you're an honorable person, then I'm going to vote for you most likely. If you're not an honorable person, then I'm not going to vote for you. That's very similar. Everybody wants to know how come Carrie Lake lost, but we won everything else in the last election. That's because Carrie Lake is, everybody likes her, but in my professional opinion, and my personal opinion, I do not think she's an honorable person. I voted for her because she was the best of poor choices. But I know a lot of people in Arizona that are staunch MAGA Republicans, but because they felt the same way as I do, they skipped over her in the election. They couldn't hold their nose to vote for her. They'd rather have the other Marine guy.
I wonder if it was because she came out of media.
No, it was because she backstabbed Mark Lamb and other people, as well as Jeff DeWitt in the primary, and then before we went into the 2024 election. She sat on that tape that she disclosed with Jeff DeWitt for 9 months. Why did you sit on it for 9 months unless you were waiting for the perfect time? You were using your knowledge with the media to get what you wanted, because she had already promised Mark Lamb that she wasn't going to run if he ran. And then she threw her name in there. Mark Lamb didn't know Trump. She got Trump's endorsement. And then Trump jumped on the bandwagon too bad. I love Trump to death and I'm a MAGA guy. But one of the things he does is he endorses people too quick, especially in primaries. He shouldn't be endorsing anybody in primaries.
Yeah, what do you think about his stance on Thomas Massey? I mean, Massey's disagreeing with him. There's a thorn in it. But we need, the Republican Party at least has differing opinions in the party. The Democrats are all in lockstep, like the Nazis or the communists.
They're not in lockstep anymore.
Well, they're running confused now.
Yeah. I don't like Massey. I think he's a dishonest engine. And I don't think he's a very good Republican. I think he's a Democrat in sheep's clothing.
A rhino, probably.
And the reality is he voted to impeach Trump, even though the evidence wasn't there. And now we definitely know the evidence wasn't there, that he should have never been impeached.
What's wrong with Kentucky, too? I mean, we got McConnell and this clown.
Yeah.
Two bad representatives.
Well, last time McConnell wouldn't have won if Trump hadn't endorsed him.
Exactly. And then McConnell, then he turns around and bites the hand that feeds him anyway.
And who else did that? His name's Romney from Utah.
Oh,
see, these are men with no honor.
What a snake. What a snake.
It goes back to what we said earlier.
Yeah. Well, when Romney ran, I have to say, that was the time I actually voted. I think was that when Rand Paul, not Rand Paul.
I'm not talking about for president. I'm talking about for Senate.
Oh, for Senate. Yeah, he never should have been elected. He's a Massachusetts rhino.
Yeah, but see, he got elected because Trump backed him after they had that dinner.
Yeah. And then all he does is criticize Trump since then.
Exactly. He got what he wanted.
One thing. On another podcast that you're on, you mentioned this, I think it's an app called CCA or something like that.
CCW.
CCW.
Yeah, I have it on my phone. This is it right here. It's awesome.
Yes.
It's like $90 a year, or maybe $19 a year, something like that. But it's right here. You can see it on my phone here. Right. And so, I can click down here on carry states, and all the green are all the states that I'm licensed to carry in.
Huh.
And then if you want to know the laws in those states, and they update this every month with all the new changes and laws to those states. So I can click on a state like Texas, and I can look at all their laws and everything that are on there. I love this app. Whenever me and my wife are traveling, we have our permits, and we carry this with us, so we follow the laws of those states. That's what most people don't, because the laws are complicated. So it needs to be in one place where you can go see it all, because every state's different.
I have an app from called Reciprocity from USCCA that shows where there's reciprocity with New Jersey.
Yeah, that
Not that much.
yeah, but the problem with that one is it doesn't give you all the laws in the state, and they don't keep it updated.
Yeah.
This one actually, this is all they do.
Okay.
This is all they do.
That's CCW.
Yep, it's a CCW app. The picture of it, it looks like this right here. It has a handgun in the middle of it with the American flag.
Oh, cool.
It's called CCW.
I'm gonna have to check that one out.
I love that app. That app, you know, when me and my wife do road trips, because we like to travel, we travel 2 or 3, 4 times a year. Sometimes it's road trips. And so it's before we cross the state line, one of us is pulling it out and reading to the other one.
Okay, you got about 4 minutes left before you have to go. However, I want to ask you one quick question. Do you know anything about Ben Miller and in California, who was arrested by the sheriff who was running for governor, who claims that Miller, even though Miller claims that he told the deputy he was carrying and he was in the parking lot and he had his guns in the car, the sheriff arrested him, claimed that he was trying to assassinate President Trump because he was at a rally where President Trump was appearing, but he had his guns in the car.
Right.
And he told the deputy, and he wound up getting arrested. Do you know anything about?
No, I don't know anything about it.
Sorry, no. Okay. Well, we're supposed to have Ben Miller supposed to come on, but I haven't been able to get a hold of him. It'll be interesting to see what he says.
Yeah, you know, we're presuming everybody's guilty until proven innocent nowadays, and the stuff has to be fixed.
Yes.
And again, people go get my book, start learning about the judicial system. If you read my book, I break it down Barney style because I am a Ranger and I write with crayons. Okay. So get my book. Go to standyourgroundbook.com, standyourgroundbook.com. And remember, all the proceeds go to defenseresourcesfoundation.org. And please, if you can, go in and start donating $10 a month and help us raise the capital. We're trying to get to, if we can sell 1 million books, and also with donations, but if we sell 1 million books, all right, that'll generate about $5 million for the foundation, and then I'm going to make it an endowment. That way the money's there, and we can help other people without having to have, you know, because a lot of people can't afford that level of insurance, but they still want to keep their families safe.
Right.
And you know, I was blessed because I was in the top 10, 20% of wage earners in the United States at the time. But not everybody has been blessed like me. So we need to help our fellow Americans. That's what this is about.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
let's not forget, Barry is not talking in theory. He's talking based upon past experience. He's giving you the best that he has to offer right now.
Thank you.
well,
Gentlemen, God bless you both, and thank you.
God
thank you for coming on. Once I stop recording, just hold on a moment just to make sure that you've uploaded. Okay. I don't want anything missing. So
no problem.
We hope everybody enjoyed this episode of The View from Here, Behind Enemy Lines, and we'll see you again next time. All right, let me stop this.